Hello, don't just sit there worrying about crime. This is where you can do something about it. Live with instant feedback, and tonight we can report some great results.
These are the officers who've travelled here from throughout the United Kingdom, from the Police Service of Northern Ireland, from Strathclyde, South Wales, South Yorkshire, Northumbria, West Midlands, the Met, many other places too. These are the top detectives on the cases that we're covering tonight, and everything you see is real or meticulously taken from witness statements.
Whatever the clues, the police gathered here need your help to solve them. Wherever the suspects are tonight, they need your help to find them. Among this evening's cases...
In County Antrim, the frail old man who hadn't been out in years, who had a long walk to raise the alarm with his hands tied behind his back.
In Surrey, the shunt in traffic, and a teenage girl who tried to stop it turning into murder.
Across much of Yorkshire, the manhunt that stretches over 2 decades.
Would it be possible to speak to you in relation to an incident you were involved in some years ago?
It's all your fault. You went over the top. You went too far.
And in South Wales, a row in the street and a man with a guilty conscience. Back at Christmas, a teenage girl witnessed something terrible in Mitcham in Surrey. It led to a bedside vigil.
On the 24th night, which is Christmas Eve, they take him to the hospital. About 12 o'clock midnight, they said to me, well, this is very, very serious. The nurse said to me, you should come and say bye-bye to him. And I said to the nurse, I'm not going to take this. I know my husband is not going to die. God is going to take him back for me, so I know she's not going to die.
Sam Amawaka works as a carer for people with mental illness. But Christmas Eve was a time to relax. Some workmates had dropped in for a drink.
You're knee-high to me. She's a big girl now. How much you invite me around, doesn't it?
Paul, we always invite you, you just never turn up.
Oh, you know, family commitments and all that. Yeah. Speaking of which, gotta be on.
We're going already.
Cheers then.
Paul, see you in 10 years' time.
Okay, bye.
The family had just moved, and Sam decided to pop back to their old house to collect the Christmas post.
That's not BBC London 94.9 FM. And I'll send this especially out to Julian in Colchester. Happy Christmas.
Sam wasn't concentrating and didn't notice his car was slipping forward. Both cars moved to the side of the road, but there seemed to be no damage.
Pay for that, you know.
Right,
I'm sorry,
you are
man,
going to pay.
honestly, I'm really sorry.
Right.
No damage.
I want money now. You understand? You're going to pay.
How much?
Right?
Okay, how much do you
want? You are going to pay.
How much do
I
you
ain't
want?
messing around, right? You're
I'm
gonna
sorry,
pay.
man.
You are going to pay.
I'm sorry.
You are going to pay.
How much?
I don't care. Right? Mess about. Right? Mess around.
Stop it!
Were you at the level crossing in Eastfields Road in Mitcham at 5 p.m. on Christmas Eve? If you remember anything, please call.
You're looking a little bit slow on Streatham High Road heading down towards Mitcham Lane. You're heading down to the A3, but once this one
Grace! 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 I've been stabbed. I've been stabbed. I've been stabbed. Call an ambulance. Call an ambulance.
Sam, Sam, hold on. The ambulance is coming. Sam, Sam, please hold on.
I was in the hospital for nearly 4 months. And it affected not only me, the children and the whole family. I can't play with the children anymore because of the damage. And they are worried about that. They always complain, why can't I play with them? I can't do simple things like sandwiches. Why? Because of the knife. So it's difficult for me to get to the normal life again, but I hope eventually I'll get back to my normal life.
Imagine not being able to make a sandwich for your children because you can't bear the sight of a knife. An argument over something so trivial has had a devastating impact on Sam and his family. It's taken months for this case to come to Crimewatch because that's how long it's taken Sam to be fit enough to make a statement, and he still can't work. His attacker was very young, maybe as young as 17, and so was the girl who was with him. She seemed to be trying to prevent the attack. If that's right, she should call tonight or go to the police herself. Here are the investigating officers. They're just waiting for you to call. 0500 600 600.
And this is Detective Superintendent Stephen Ward. With your help, he's intent on solving one of the most shocking crimes, the murder of Amy Anderson. Her death attracted huge publicity a month ago when her torso was found near Dumbarton on the banks of the River Leven. Police sub-aqua teams are still searching for other parts of her body, and there are obvious fears about the mental stability of whoever did this. Amy's parents were too distraught to come in and appeal in person tonight, but this is what her mum told a press conference.
Obviously, we're absolutely horrified at what's happened to our daughter. I would hate any other parent to have to go through the suffering that we have. And we both wish to appeal for anyone who's any information in connection with Amy's death to please come forward. Please help the police find the person or persons who did this to our daughter. Thank you.
Stephen, a very difficult case for you in every sense, emotional as well as a detective. But whoever did this, because of what he did, the whole gruesome thing must have been absolutely drenched in blood. You've made that plain.
Yes, absolutely. The person who did this must have been covered in blood, as you say. Blood-stained hands, blood-stained clothing. And I would appeal for anyone who knows anything about this crime, who may be shielding someone, to come forward to us.
Now, you think this is pretty local to Alexandria, where she lived and where the torso was found in the river?
Yes, the investigation is centred around Alexandria. That's where Amy spent her last days. She was a drug addict. She spent a lot of time there. She slept rough in that area. So naturally we are concentrating on that particular locality.
Now, she came from a really lovely family. She'd obviously fallen in with lots of other people into the drug scene, though, and of course it's very difficult for you to reach out to them.
Yes, again, I would ask them to come forward to us in confidence if necessary. There's a lot of information out there, and through this programme I hope that we can tap into it.
Her glasses are missing. These are almost identical to them. Obviously you don't want to know if people have found glasses anywhere else in Britain or in Scotland, but if in this particular area, that's absolutely crucial to you.
Yes, the glasses were particularly distinctive. People knew her in that area because she did beg in the area of Alexandria around the main street. And if anybody has seen glasses lying about in that area, please come forward to us.
Now, you've got no description, of course, of any suspect. On the other hand, their behaviour is likely to have been strange about a month ago.
Yes, they must have been agitated, they must have been acting extremely strangely. This is an horrific crime, and I would ask for anybody with any information to come forward to us.
If you know anything at all, please just give us a call here in the studio, 0500 600 600, or you can call the incident room, that's in Dumbarton itself, on 01 389 822 161.
In some cases, lightning strikes twice. In fact, research into when and where crime happens and who's affected shows that if you're burgled, your risk of being burgled again is higher than average. The police call it repeat victimisation. Take a look at this.
And my nan always, in the morning, goes to buy the paper, does shopping. On Tuesday, she picks up the pension and stuff.
Comes from a pension.
Like, for her age, she's very, very active, very fit.
One of our crime analysts noticed that this victim had been a repeat victim. The decision was made to install some camera equipment into the premises.
This was the 9th time in a year the old lady had been burgled.
Morning, love. I'm just here to check your plumbing.
Oh, all right.
Thanks.
One of the men led her into the kitchen, while his accomplice searched the flat for cash.
She's going down there. But... There's some trouble upstairs, you see?
I thought it's going down all right.
Yeah, but she forced it enough, you see?
And here's the accomplice signalling to move the old lady to another part of the flat so he can continue his search.
You report and investigate lots of burglaries over the years, but when you actually see an elderly victim like that caught on camera with these two suspects, it's despicable.
Someone must know who these two are. Call 0500 600 600. You know, that old lady's been burgled a total of 9 times, but not always by the same people. If you can help us, you know the number to call. And incidentally, if you have any information about any burglary on a vulnerable person like that, you can call Crime Stoppers, anonymously if you want, on 0800 555 111. Now, from the National Crime and Operations Faculty, here's DS Jacqui Hames.
Now more CCTV footage. Can you spot someone you know? This man chatted to a shop assistant about buying some jewellery, not realising he was being caught on tape. This was just 2 days before Mother's Day. If you were given a chain of white and yellow gold, take a close look. He was very relaxed, and as he ran from the shop, he even said, "Thanks, love." We need to find these 2 men who tried to rob a newsagent at gunpoint on Christmas Eve. They held a knife to the manager's throat, threatened him with a gun, and then fired at him 4 times. Miraculously, the gun didn't go off, but these 2 really do need to be stopped. This man appears to move a bit of antique furniture, so what he does next can't be seen. Thousands of pounds of jewellery were taken from this cabinet. These 2 may have known him. Do you recognise any of them? If you recognise any of these people, please call 0500 600 600.
Calls to Crimewatch really make a difference. This is DC Steve Worthington, who came here last autumn. He's already got results. Now, he'd like some more. One Saturday evening last September, Ken, a father of 2, was travelling home from work on the number 36, heading to Lewisham in southeast London. A routine journey till 5 rowdy youths got on at Vauxhall Bridge Road. One of them grabbed the only empty seat, found biscuits on it, and started throwing them at other passengers.
It seemed like he was either on something or he just wasn't all there. Some of the biscuits touched me. I then said to him politely, "Why don't you just brush the biscuits on the floor, I'll give you a hand." And then he became really aggressive, started swearing at me.
At Vauxhall Bridge, the aggressive boys got off, and the whole bus applauded Ken's courage for intervening. Then seconds later, they returned and went back to attack him. They laid into him, but he pushed them down the stairs, and they fell out onto the street.
We landed outside on the floor. Luckily, I landed on top of 2 of them. Then I felt the first guy behind me on my, sort of like on my back, and he had both of his fingers in my eyes, like feeling around. He was pushing into my right eye. I didn't feel anything. Maybe it was the adrenaline, I don't know. And I didn't realise my eye had been pulled out.
Ken spent 2 months in hospital, but surgeons couldn't save his right eye and only just saved him from total blindness. He's been left with only 40% vision. One of the attackers, Wesley Foster, was caught on the night of the attack running away from the scene. But police still needed to find the others and asked us to appeal for help. About 25 calls came in on the night, mostly of high quality. 2 passengers from the bus came forward, both of whom became important witnesses at the trial. And names were offered for the whole gang, including that of Thomas Jennings. He and Wesley Foster were both picked out on ID parades, and last month they were convicted of GBH and violent disorder and were sentenced to a total of 4 years. Thomas Jennings wasn't responsible for the actual blinding of Ken, but the judge said you were responsible for the violent enterprise that you joined and promoted. You've not shown one scrap of pity or remorse for your part in the violence. Steve, they may not have shown much remorse, but Ken himself, although almost blind now, has been so stoical through all of this.
He's a true gentleman. He's asked me to pass his thanks to everyone that stepped forward, and I personally would also like to thank all those that have come forward, especially those who gave evidence in court.
Now, as a result of all the information you've got a pretty good idea who it was who actually did this. Your problem now is just getting that extra witness, extra two witnesses who just tip the balance enough to take to court.
That's right. I mean, from your first appeal, we had a number of witnesses came forward, but maybe some of those that were on the bus, which was full, they may not have come forward, and we asked that they give us a call tonight.
And perhaps other people who know who did this, who've heard, I mean, they could be useful as witnesses as well.
Absolutely. Any scrap of evidence is important. It just may tip the balance.
OK, such a horrible case, this. If you know anything, give us a call, 0500 600 600.
In case you're wondering what we do with all that information that comes in when you call, all the officers behind me here, when they take your calls in, they have forms to fill out, giving the information that's come in on what particular case, and all that information is then collated here at this central desk where we categorise what kind of calls we've had coming in. So far we've had quite a few, and one particularly good call on that case, that cold case 20 years ago of the Dearne Valley rapist in Yorkshire. One woman's called in who thinks she may have been attacked by the same man. We're getting more calls in now. We'll obviously keep you informed as we get the calls coming in and all the information we get. Coming up, the robbery victim who made such a racket that a crowd began to gather. And more news of arrests from Crimewatch calls.
Now to South Yorkshire and a manhunt that stretches over 20 years. For reasons that'll become obvious, we've disguised the location of the opening scene.
Hello there.
Hello. Hi.
We're from Rotherham CID. Would it be possible to speak to you in relation to an incident you were involved in some years ago?
People say that time is a healer. It is, and it isn't. You never forget when you're being raped. When the police came to tell me that they were reopening the case, total shock. I'm a very private person. I don't like anyone knowing my business.
We had to visit 6 out of the 7 women attacked because one lady's unfortunately since died. Their reaction varied from being a little bit reserved to being, well, this keeps resurrecting itself over the years, but if this man's not caught this time, I won't be able to do it again. So this is basically your last chance.
They wanted me to go over my statement again. It's like I was reliving it again. Maybe painful for me and for the others, but I want him caught.
Crime is always reviewed. It's reviewed on a 3-year basis. And the time was right, really, to take advantages of the advances in science. Now we've got DNA evidence that links 3 of the offences to the same offender. And that, in turn, convinces us that we're looking for a serial rapist. So some of the work that we had to do then was to retrieve all the old case files. And in addition to the papers, we've managed to track down the exhibits. This fur coat was from the second victim, and the mother has kept that coat since the 1980s. Some of the enquiries we've had to make, of course, are speaking to officers who were involved in the investigation back in the 80s.
When the first offence occurred, February 1983, I was a detective constable working in Rotherham Town Centre in the CID. About the time these offences were being committed, 1984 being the main year, that's significant for South Yorkshire, predominantly because it was the time of the miners' strike. and had a massive impact on virtually every household within South Yorkshire. The first few offences, they were quite spread out, but then suddenly in '84 we got offences 4, 5 and 6 very, very close together. And I think that was the turning point when we suddenly started really appreciating that we had got offences that were all linked. We were predominantly looking for people with a history of sex offending.
We can take advantage of behavioural and geographic profilers, looking at the pattern of behaviour that the offender displayed, the things he said and did, and actually interpreting that now in a different light to those in the 1980s. This individual knew the entire geographic area of this offending very, very well. In fact, I'm convinced that he offended in other ways within that area. In the 80s, we were looking for a sex attacker. Perhaps now the individual was better known as a thief. The first known attack took place on the 13th of February 1983. I think he took advantage at that time of turning the motive of robbery into a dual motive of robbery and rape.
The hallmark of the rapist, right from this first offence, was that he stole his victim's shoes.
It's quite clear throughout the series of offences that he gained in confidence, both sexually and socially.
He had a number of girlfriends, I'm confident about that, during the latter part of 1984, where you can see a change in his behaviour, this extra confidence, socially and sexually, with his victim.
I think there are two possible motives for the shoes. One, of course, was to prevent the victims from running away, and the other one, which clearly I favour based on the behavioural profile, was that he'd got a shoe fetish. In offence number 5, he actually replaced a shoe before the sexual attack, and then he went on to steal them. His behaviour in relation to this shoe fetish will have been known to some of these girlfriends. He liked to control his victims by the way he actually gagged them, and he actually used his bindings on them. And it's quite clear that this may just be part of his own fantasies. The way he was actually dealing with the victims was perhaps based on books and magazines that he read. But there is a 19-month gap, and that's a very, very significant gap. So, of course, part of the work we will now be carrying out is looking at police files and court records between Christmas 1984 and August 1986. To our knowledge, there were no other offences committed within that period. But my belief, based on the profile that we have, is that our offender was in prison for some other offence.
After August 1986, the rapes appeared to stop altogether. Were there other victims who haven't yet come forward? Did he go to prison? Did he change the method of his attacks or move elsewhere? Is he still a danger?
We managed to obtain a very good photo fit in August 1986, and we've managed to actually age that photo fit now to try and give a picture of what the offender may look like today. He's aged between 38 and 43 years of age now.
I'll never forget what happened to me. But I have to carry on. You have to. Or it can destroy your life. And I'm not going to let that happen.
Have you any idea who this man was or is? Of course, his hair might be receding now. We don't know much about that. It might have gone grey. We just don't know. But we do know he lived in South Yorkshire through part of the 1980s. Now, of course, he'd have then been in his early 20s. He's average height, local accent, dark wavy hair then, and at times he may have had a moustache. Where is he now? Still offending somewhere or living an ordinary life? Tell us your suspicions. DNA will rule them in or out. 0500 600 600 or the incident room on 01 709 832 351. Now, some CCTV. Here's the head of Sussex CID, Jeremy Paine.
CCTV images aren't always as good as they should be, but even so, you'd be surprised at how often they lead to a result. See if you can identify anyone in this. A lorry yard in Basildon has been targeted 3 times in 4 months by thieves trying to steal Alco Pops from a trailer. On the first occasion, they got away with £100,000 worth of drink. Later attempts were foiled attempts. Take a look at these clips from the 3 break-ins. We can see 2 men walking across the yard. It looks like one of the pair is the same on each occasion, but with a different partner. Now I need your help in identifying them. Ring us now and let's get it stopped. 0500 600 600.
It's not often that a robbery draws an audience, but in Hockley in Birmingham, the victim was yelling so loudly, a crowd gathered, wondering what on earth was going on.
I've had the shop about a year and 3 months. Been in the trade over about 32 years and decided to try and better myself.
On a Wednesday at the end of February, an Australian couple come to the shop to have a ring made smaller. Around midday, new customers arrived.
Okay. At that time, the doorbell rang and the black gentleman came in. I'll be with you in a minute, okay, mate? All right. So I served the couple from Australia and they went...
It's good for us.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye now.
Bye.
Another 2 gentlemen came in. One tall, big black guy, about 6'2", and another one stocky. All right there. And then he said, could you have a look at some earrings?
Me like the look of that ring over there.
All right.
Any
So
particular
I
one?
went
Yes, that
to
one.
get the earrings for him,
Me like the
realising
look of
that the cupboard was locked.
I just need to go and get the keys, okay?
Get the jewellery!
I ran to the back entry and the guy was there beating with the gun. And then the other short one, he came around and he was punching me in the ribs.
The beating was pretty severe and the screams from the jeweller could be heard in the street. A witness said the driver in the black MG was looking nervous and a small crowd started to gather.
I was walking up the road and I heard somebody screaming. As I walked past the shop, the guy walked past me, laughing, as though he'd just been having a laugh and a joke with the guy who was in the shop. You wouldn't think he'd just done a robbery. I looked through the security door. I could see a guy bleeding quite badly, so I asked someone to call the police.
A witness driving along Vi Street past the jewellers had to brake sharply as the getaway car swerved out into the traffic. That car, a black MG Rover, was stolen and has been recovered now. It's a car that attracts attention. Did you see it in the last few days of February or the first few days of March? But the obvious lead is this CCTV. Who's the gunman pursuing the terrified jeweller? The gang seem to have strong Jamaican accents. And who were the Australian or maybe New Zealand customers who would have caught a glimpse as the first of the robbers arrived? There was a lot of unnecessary violence. Give us a tip-off, please. 0500 600 600. There's also a West Midlands Police Incident Room number. That's 0121 626 6092.
Some great results on appeals from the last Crimewatch a few weeks ago. A vicious piece of bullying in Birmingham city centre. 2 Asian men were attacked with a broken bottle.
I've lost the sight in my left eye and there's some scars as well on my face, but they're going to heal. But the eyesight itself is gone.
As a direct result of a call to the studio, 3 men have been arrested.
I didn't realise how serious it was until the doctors sat me down and said, look, you could have easily lost your life.
Ian Fricker was wanted for questioning about a stolen cheque. After finding out he'd been on Crimewatch, he handed himself into Lincoln Police Station. He's been arrested and released on bail.
Matthew Nuttall also handed himself in after appearing on the programme. He's been arrested in connection with a bank fraud.
But detectives are still looking for Joseph Barton, who hasn't been seen since the fatal stabbing of a shop owner in Liverpool. He's very distinctive, bald and stocky with thick glasses. Call 0500 600 600 if you know where he is.
Another arrest from CCTV shown on the programme. A man has been charged with 4 offences of burglary. He's in custody awaiting trial.
And some news on the tragic case of 9-year-old Ross Doyle, who was killed by a hit-and-run driver on the Blackbird Leys estate in Oxford. Ross's mother Cheryl made an appeal on Crimewatch last November.
His dad and his brother actually went looking for him because it was late for him to come home anyway. I phoned the police to sort of report him as sort of missing, and then they came round and told us what had happened.
Independently of the programme, 2 men and a woman have been arrested and released on bail.
Last November, we asked for help to find the murderer of Michaela Hague, who was killed in Sheffield on Guy Fawkes night. 6 or 7 months on, Detective Superintendent Paul Broadbent has come back to ask for your help again. Here's a reminder of what we showed you those months ago. Bonfire night in Sheffield, Monday the 5th of November last year. Around 7 p.m, instead of going to a fireworks party, a man was cruising the red light district, drawing attention to himself. He was driving around for about an hour, and shortly before 8, he approached Michaela for business. She got into his blue Sierra. They drove up to a disused area by the IMO car wash in Spitalfields. By the time he drove off 13 minutes later, she'd been stabbed 19 times in the back and neck. A police officer held Michaela as she lay bleeding.
She kept asking me if the ambulance was coming, and I told her that it was. She appeared as though she was going to fall asleep every now and again. Kept having to just gently rock her and bring her back to me, asked her to stay with me.
Michaela was able to describe her attacker.
She obviously wanted us to get this guy. She tried her best to tell us everything she knew.
Paul, at least you got a good response. Very good, I think, well over 100 calls.
Excellent response, yes, and that's generated over 10,000 actions in itself.
10,000 actions?
Absolutely.
One of the most important things was to eliminate people. Now, at one point we had 2 e-fits, 2 different people. You've now got that down to 1 with a pretty good description.
Yes, we have. The information we got has helped us narrow it down to 1 person, 1 e-fit, and we believe he's late 30s, early 40s, a white male, about 6 feet tall, with mousy brown hair, with a wedding ring, definitely wore a wedding ring, possibly glasses, and he spoke with a northern English accent. And we do know at the time he was wearing a dark blue zip-up fleece with oily hands and oily trousers.
And there was some thought he might have been a mechanic or something because of the oily connection, something like this back in November.
That's right.
You know something about his car as well now?
Yes, we've narrowed that down as well. It's a dark blue Ford Sierra hatchback with a roof rack. It had a roof rack at the time. It's E or F registered. That's all we're focusing on at this time. It's got rust down the near side and potentially got damage to the near side door, and it's dirty inside. And I'm not dismissing the fact that the killer may have bought the car for the specific purpose of killing Michaela.
And he may no longer have that car, therefore, but we're talking back in November, that was the sort of vehicle that he had very, very violent, was stabbed again and again and again. There's a £5,000 reward that's been put up by Crime Stoppers for information leading to the arrest and conviction of the killer. And if you need anything else to convince you of the tragedy of this attack, Michaela had a son who's 5 years old. He now accepts his mum isn't coming home, but he keeps asking why. If you can help, call us please, 0500 600 600.
Still to come, the tragic death of a farmer in Northern Ireland that brought the community together to put up a big reward.
Tell us the names of the boys in a stolen car who killed someone's dad on a pedestrian crossing.
It's all your fault.
A row in the street and a Cardiff man with a very guilty conscience. Now, quite a lot of you have been calling in with information on cases that we haven't even shown yet, and I was just wondering how you'd done that. In fact, the more ingenious of you have discovered a website which we've launched just today. I haven't told you about it yet, but some of you found it anyway. It's www.bbc.co.uk/crime, and on that you can find more details about the crimes that we're showing tonight. We've had some fantastic calls in. Let me just tell you about one request for some more information. A lady has rung in saying that she thinks she can name the woman in the Gloucester jewellery theft, but she needs to see her picture again. Of course, we can show you that picture again. Here it is. Give us a call if you think that is the person you know. And let me just tell you about one great call we've had in. You remember the Birmingham jewellery robbery where the poor jeweller was making such a racket, he was being beaten so badly. There was a couple in the shop, an Australian couple, a New Zealand couple. They've rung in. They say they're the couple in the shop. They're due to go back to an Australia in 3.5 weeks. Don't worry, the police will contact you well before you go back. Thanks very much for calling in.
Now the Good Samaritan, everybody's friend. In fact, the whole village says so. And the farming community around Antrim in Northern Ireland has clubbed together to put up a £20,000 reward. They want to know who killed Joss McLennan. With the help of his friends, we've pieced together the conversations and the events that led up to his death.
Joss was a man 65 years of age, and he had lived in this part of the country all of his life. He was a farmer, a very skilled farmer, and he was always in demand to help people out. Joss's favourite saying was, "I'll be with you in 5 minutes," and he always would have kept his word on that.
Okay then, Jock. Look, I'll be back for tea about 6, okay? I've just promised Billy that I'll go be over to his place in about 5 minutes to help him with the cow shed, okay? Mind yourself.
For almost 20 years, Joss visited his friend, Jock McCulloch. He's a frail man in his 80s with chronic chest problems, but Joss looked after him very well. He would have visited him every night and very often during the day as well. Joss would have done the shopping usually, and Jock did the cooking. The night that Joss was murdered, they had their favourite meal. That was mince, potatoes and lots of gravy.
Josh, come on here. Dinner's ready. Oh, it's all ready for you. Oh, good. That was some job of it, Billy's.
Did you get it all sorted out for?
It'll take a bit more work tomorrow.
It's no weather to have a hole in the roof, Josh.
No, you're right there.
I'll tell you that.
In the meantime, enjoy the rest of the night and especially have a great Easter. We'll see you straight after. From us all here. Night night, everybody. Night night.
It's over, Josh.
Yeah?
It goes off again.
Oh, God, I don't think I saw very much of
You
that.
didn't, you must have been sure,
Well, listen, I'll go. Good night to you.
I'll see you in the door.
Ah, no, don't bother. Sure, you're all right there. Okay, good night.
Good night, Josh.
Bye.
What you doing now? Get down! All I want some money. Tell me where the money is.
I have no money.
Oh, you have money, all right.
No.
Where is it?
The only money I have is in my wallet.
Where's your wallet?
In my pocket.
Just do your token and you won't be hurt.
Picking on an old man. I'm having a,
Where's the rest
I'm
of
having a breath.
Where's the rest of it?
I'm having a breath. Get me my inhaler.
Where's your inhaler?
Over
Where is it?
Over on the television. On the television.
Yeah, ready? Right. I want the rest of the money.
No money in the house.
I'll find the money.
No money in the house.
Help me get a man. I'm coming.
While Jock, the older man, fought for breath, Joss was fighting for his life. He'd been hit on the head.
What's wrong with him?
He's in trouble. He needs help.
Who is he? What's his name?
He's just my friend. What have you done to him?
Have you got a number or something? He's not well. We need to get him help.
I don't have a phone.
Jesus Christ. Right now, what's the quickest way back to Belfast?
Go down the lane, turn left, and then right. Keep going.
Right, that's us. That's on here. Come on. Go on.
Joss. Are you okay, Joss? Joss?
Jock had hardly been out of his house in years, but now, without a phone, breathless, injured, and with his hands still tied behind his back, he had a long walk to summon help. Two miles away, a red car was noticed by a police patrol. Either the robbers were lost, or else this is a driver we now need to eliminate. Next to the lay-by is a field. Maybe the robbers knew the police had seen them. At any rate, they decided to dump the car. Perhaps someone drove out to collect them. Half an hour later, a mud-spattered black BMW with 3 men inside drove fast into Antrim's Rathenraw estate. Joss's farm has been abandoned, and the older man, Jock, has had to leave the home he'd lived in for 40 years. With Joss dead, locals gathered at this auction in Ballyclare as his lifetime's work went under the hammer.
Really, this whole community, the whole district, is very saddened by Joss's murder. It just didn't make sense at all.
Alan, you've put huge resources into this. I think you yourself have spent days and days at the scene of this crime, and you're now convinced there is a real local element to this in Antrim itself.
Well, yes, I think just in particular there had to be somebody from the criminal community within Antrim to actually take somebody up to that location and pinpoint the house or be part of that actual team. I'm convinced that somebody in the criminal community in Antrim is involved and knows something about it.
Now, there's a big reward the community's put up, £20,000. People in the criminal fraternity are going to be pretty tempted by that.
Well, it's the community way of saying, you know, this is what we want to do to help the police. This is how we can, our little bit, and it will tempt somebody, I have no doubt about that, it'll tempt somebody from the criminal community to come forward and give us information.
So you need names of people who are just suspected, you need, what, hearsay evidence, people who've heard things on the grapevine, what else do you need?
I want people to come forward and tell me, and tell the inquiry team, names, people they suspect, and let us be the deciding, you know, who what we do with that information. Let us decide on that and see if we can put the jigsaw together.
And there may be people who have had contact with this gang, haven't quite realised what was behind it. Now, tell us about this cheque, for example. Somebody might have been offered this, maybe even accepted it in good faith, having no idea that a murder lay behind it.
Well, that's quite right. Behind that there, Joyce was carrying it that night, the night he was murdered. And what we believe is that that was taken with a lot of cash. Was somebody offered that in all good faith? Let us know. Contact the police.
Cheque to Joyce McLennan, made out for £5,207.
That's right.
It's part of the peace dividend, in a way, sadly, ironically, that as the police and the army come off the streets, you're getting more offences against vulnerable people like this.
Well, you just need one of this type of crime, and it puts fear in the community. And this is just, I illustrate this before, I've had illustrated before, this is a crime against the people in the community, far beyond Antrim, and that's why it's so important to get this team and catch them and bring them before the court.
OK, well, please help us any way you can. 0500 600 600.
There are moments in everyone's life when in a split second everything can change. For the West family, this was one of them. Last August at the Bolton Industrial Estate in Hockley in Birmingham, someone stole some keys and a silver VW Polo. The next day it was captured on a speed camera in West Bromwich, and 3 nights after that it was caught 3 more times doing up to twice the speed limit in Newtown. It still had the original plates, V873KOG. Some weeks later, a motorist was so concerned about erratic driving, he stopped an officer on the A34 and told him about a silver Polo. But by the time the officer gave chase, the Polo had disappeared. 10 days after that, on a Tuesday evening last October. This is the Royal Mail sorting office in Newtown. Christopher West left work at roughly 8:30.
Chris is a very friendly person. He would do anything for anybody. The neighbours will tell you exactly the same thing. He was always helping out people at work, in the road. He used to be a governor of the school over the road in his spare time. In a 30-mile-per-hour limit, one witness thought the car that killed Chris had been doing over 80. There were no skid marks. It didn't even brake. The damaged car was parked in Aldgate Grove in Newtown. There were 2 occupants. One was limping and tried to hide his face. Both were black, in their late teens or early 20s. 10 minutes later, the car went up in flames. Deloise, she'll never know. She's 2 soon, so she'll never know at all. She sees the pictures of her daddy around the house. And she points up to that and says, Daddy, and then she looks up to the sky and she'll blow him a kiss.
This is how the car was left. Look at the damage from the impact. Imagine the speed it must have been going to have such an impact. Who's talked about having that stolen Polo in Birmingham from last August to early October? Did you see that accident? Haven't yet come forward. Maybe one of the occupants was injured and needed medical attention. Perhaps someone's bragged, or worse still, boasted of what happened. Give us names, dates, addresses. Let's find the killers tonight. 0500 600 600.
It's hard to predict which Crimewatch cases will get detected, but about a third of them finish with arrests. This one, though, we all thought surely had to get solved quickly. And it was. Friday night in Brixton, London, and a mother put her child to bed before settling down for the evening.
I opened the window because it got a bit stuffy because I had the central heating on. And then she fell asleep and I thought I'd go into the front room and watch some Sky, but I fell asleep. I was awoken to a strange man on top of me. It was, you know, frightening. You know, I thought there's no way this guy's going to rape me. My strength came from nowhere. I was actually dragging him and kicking him and I was so angry. I was fighting for my daughter. I thought he'd come through the door and that's when I remembered the window. When I woke up my daughter to see that she was okay, I heard the noises. It's him at the window and that's what frightened me because I thought, why is he trying to get back in again?
The reason was he'd left his jacket behind, and in the pocket was a tube ticket from Highbury and Islington. Police checked the station cameras and found this man in the same jacket and at the same time shown on the ticket. We showed these pictures last November and one viewer recognised him as Martin Hale. She rang him at an immigration centre where he was awaiting deportation to Jamaica. He became agitated and tried to speed up his deportation, but his roommate told an officer why. Martin Hale will still be deported, but first he's serving a sentence of 8 years for attempted rape. Another man wanted for a sex offence, Sivaraja Sivakaran, was on the programme in February. A caller told us he was working as a glass collector in a pub in Bristol, and that's where he was when local police went there to arrest him. He's just been found guilty of attempted rape and is awaiting sentencing.
Mark Fitzgerald's wanted by West Yorkshire Police. He escaped from Leeds Magistrate Court last month by leaping over a glass screen surrounding the dock. He was in court on burglary charges, but we'd also like to speak to him about the death of 92-year-old Lily Myers. We think he was spotted in Wiltshire last week. Is he still there? Afrim Krasniki is wanted for questioning about the murder of Qadir Abbas last September. An argument broke out and Qadir was stabbed in the chest and stomach. Afrim hasn't been seen since. Alan Huggins is wanted by Suffolk and Essex Police in connection with several attempted armed robberies in Bury St Edmunds and Newmarket. He is originally from Merseyside but could be anywhere in the country. And this is Clifford Wootton, who failed to appear at Wolverhampton Crown Court to answer allegations of serious sexual assault. You might recognise him by the tattoos on both of his forearms.
Christopher Hudson's charged with rape and was due to appear at Lincoln Crown Court in September last year. He never turned up and has disappeared. His trade is as a plasterboard erector, so is he on your building site? He could be anywhere in the country or even abroad, and in the past has used the name Christopher Alsop. He should not be approached if spotted. Alfred Ball's wanted for a number of burglary offences across London, Middlesex and Essex. He targets the elderly and pretends to be from the water board. We need to find him quickly, so if you're approached by this man claiming to be an official, call the police straight away. Child protection officers in Hertfordshire need to find Nigel Wilkes. He skipped bail after being arrested in connection with 3 sexual offences dating back to the 1980s. He was last seen in the Derbyshire area late last year. But where is he now? John Quinn is suspected of an arson and a burglary in the West Midlands. Quinn is originally from Limerick in southwest Ireland, but is known to travel around. Now he's short at 5'4" and has a tattoo on his hand. 0500 600 600.
Somewhere in Cardiff tonight, there's someone with a very guilty conscience. He knows who almost killed a man, and he's probably told his friends. I hope that they're going to call in, and hope we'll find new witnesses tonight, but best of all would be if he has the courage to come forward himself.
Last July, my daughter got married, and Leon gave her away at the wedding. He was so proud of her, and we were both so proud of him. He did a really good job.
Well, firstly, I just want to thank everybody for coming.
I like to talk a lot, endlessly talk. Very passionate about everything. Nothing is ever going to be the same. How can you ever do? He's my son. He's my firstborn. Leon has his eyes open, but there is no recognition. He doesn't know where they are. He can't move. His body's contorting. Every day is a bonus. It's another day he's alive.
It's 4 months since Leon was attacked in Cardiff, the night of the football match between Wales and Argentina. Leon had just moved back to Cardiff after a job in England and was working part-time in the centre of the town. At about 11:45, Leon collected his week's wages and left the bar with a colleague.
Cheers, see you later. Ta-da, mate.
Leon might have gone to a club nearby, and there are several in St Mary Street, but he wouldn't have gone alone, so someone must have seen him. At 1:55, Leon used a payphone to send a text message to a friend. The phone box is only 50 yards away from the cottage pub where he worked. Where had he been for the last 2 hours? At 1:58 a.m, CCTV shows him walking down St Mary Street, maybe heading home, and certainly there's no one with him. Half an hour later, around 2:30, a taxi driver noticed 2 men walking towards Grangetown station. There was a woman in a red coat who looked like she was waiting for a lift. We're keen to trace her too. It was freezing that morning, and the driver of a gritter lorry saw 2 men standing by the entrance of the station. A few minutes later, another man set off towards the station.
Come on, mate. Shut up. Shut up.
The woman in the red coat had now crossed to the other side of the road, and from here she must have been able to hear the argument. And a tall, smartly dressed man with short afro hair was walking towards the station. If this was you, please call us now. When the car driver stopped at the junction, he saw 2 men running from the scene.
Hi, how you doing?
Yeah, you're right.
Not too bad.
Where are you going? You're on your way home?
Yeah.
You went over the top. You went too far. Oh.
The 2 men were last seen running up North Clive Street.
His whole world at 25 should be opening up to him. And now it's ended. Yeah, he'll have a life, but the quality of life is never going to be the same. Who's to say who they would do it to next? Somebody that can do that much damage on a whim can do that much damage to anybody, friends or family. It doesn't mean anything to them. Life obviously means nothing. And therefore, whoever knows them has to. I have to tell. How can you live with yourself if you know who did this?
Well, there are still 20 detectives on this case, and all but name it is a murder inquiry. Leading the hunt is Detective Chief Inspector Graham Anthony. I say almost a murder inquiry. He actually took a turn for the worse over the weekend, I gather.
Yes, Leon is still in a coma, and his condition is deteriorating.
Now look, one of these guys is quite likely to come forward, if only, or if his friends will, because plainly he thought the violence had gone way, way too far.
Yes, we believe he was annoyed at the level of violence, and I would appeal for that man to come forward and contact me directly.
Obviously, juries are going to look much more favourably, everybody is, on somebody who comes forward, whatever his involvement, however slight or however much it was. What about friends of his? I mean, he must have told people he's been so upset by this.
Yes, he was certainly upset. I mean, that was plain and obvious from the time and the scene. And I would appeal for anyone, himself to come forward, or his friends to come forward, and it's his opportunity to tell us what's happened.
OK, for Leon's sake, for everybody's, for heaven's sake, Wednesday night, actually it was around 2:30 on the Thursday morning, which would have been Valentine's Day in Grangetown. Anyone who was near will remember it. A very loud argument, very late at night. Just call us, please.
You know, when we put these cases together for Crimewatch, you can never tell which case is going to trigger the best response, and we've had a phenomenal amount of calls on the 20-year-old case of the Rotherham rapist. About this many calls have come in. We've had 6 people ringing in with names, with one particular name. 2 officers also saying that they believe this person is actually in prison at the moment, in for life, in fact. On the Michaela case, that was the murder, if you remember. A little boy, 5-year-old boy, keeps wondering when his mother's going to come home. We've had some very, very good calls on that, so it was really worth reappealing on that case. Now, let me just tell you, if you still want to get information here to the studio, you can also email us about any of tonight's cases at Crimewatch at bbc.co.uk. And as you remember, I told you earlier on, from today, you can check out some of the cases we featured on our new crime website. That's at www.bbc.co.uk/crime. And all the numbers are on CFAX, page 621. Our phone lines are open until midnight tonight, and again from 7:30 tomorrow morning until midnight. We'll be back at 10:35. That's with the Crimewatch update.
Right now, on the phones behind us, Crimewatch viewers are helping to solve many of these crimes, so whatever happens, certainly not on our account, don't have nightmares, do please sleep well. Good night.
Good night.